Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, Captain Logun, and we've got a lot of Sea of Thieves news to cover today. So tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. I know I did. This week, we're going to be talking about my feelings on Sea of Thieves Fest, the memorandum that I've got for that, or the memoriam. Yeah, I think it's memoriam. Also, I want to talk about the latest couple of videos that came out from Sea of Thieves. What I've been doing lately, what it's been like coming back from vacation. I'm so happy to be back. I'm so happy to jump into Sea of Thieves news. We've got a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. But before I get into any of that, I have to thank the patrons because they are the ones that helped support me get to SoT Fest and to Fest of Legends. They are the ones that are supporting this content, helping take care of the bills as far as paying for the services that you guys are, that I'm using to be able to make this content for you. So thank you to People's Republic, LQ'd, Balls, Bam Bam Bagel, Captain Chonky, Chateau Noof, Super Pack, Zombie Killer, Cloud, Cosmic Johnson, Static Mirror, Davram TV, El Jefe Esteban, Fergatron, Godhammer 6, Trickster, Jabaro 5, Jorby Jorbs, Carl Embo, Kazia the Aficionado, Nightstar, Lumpy SRQ, Evil Morpheus, Space Admiral Ors, Xbox Mike 29, Murphy Lives, Mutinous Max, Norwegian, Raja the Brave, Registella the Brony Pirate, Replicated Flame, Skamelt 666, Captain Dasm, Tommy D, TN Professor, Real Big Tuna, Big Bad Pad, Mina Fairy, Captain J Rat of the Flaming Cold Sore, The Lore Chronologist Deadeye Dre, Hager Owl, Jeff H, Ghost Boy 20, Evil Martha, Peter Miller, Rooskidoo, Thor Von Blitz, Windsor Chris, Luke Lore the Insipid Ghost, and Zam Wow. Thank you all so much for your love and your support. And shout out to Zam Wow for sending me a photo of him and Caleb, where Caleb looks like he is working for Best Buy as a Geek Squad member. That was cherished. I'm going to save that photo for later. I hope you guys have a great week so far. Let's get into this episode. First up on today's docket, let's talk about Sea of Thieves Fest 2023. This is the memoriam that I have for it. I miss it. It was a lot of fun, and I feel like if I do another Sea of Thieves Fest, which I probably won't do next year, I have a different way that I want to go about doing it because I feel like I missed a lot of the actual content for both Sea of Thieves Fests. But at the same time, I can't complain because I spent a lot of time hanging out with folks and chatting with them. And I think at the end of the day, it's great that they have all the panels, that they have all the contests, the music, the podcasts, stuff like that, the props and all the things you can buy. But at the end of the day, I think I really just go for the sake of meeting up with my friends, especially ones that I don't get to see either, in person on a regular basis, which is pretty much none. But the ones that I don't get to see because they're so far away. And I'm really glad that I got to go. I'm really glad that I had this opportunity. Again, I think next year I will plan on going to Fest of Legends. And I will work on getting a new PC because I desperately need to get a new one. It's just at the point where I'm having trouble playing Sea of Thieves in a way that feels good. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Sea of Thieves Fest. So first off, it was amazing that they let me have time on the stage. There were 2 stages. It was really smartly thought out as far as keeping the stages separate because they had one area where they had like all the panels, and then the other area was where they had everything set up for the music. And I was going to be included on the music section. It was really great to have Shumba with me. I think he helped me out a ton. It was really, really fun to have folks hanging out in the actual like little chair section and stuff. And I think if I had a recommendation for Sea of Thieves Fest for 2024, some of the things that I noticed, which was really cool, but probably got missed by folks there, was Mike from Skeleton Comics, the Sea of Thieves Portugal trading card stuff, one of the photo shoot areas, and then of course the guys that were working on the which island was it? Crooks Hollow I believe. Yeah, Crook's Hollow. They did a full, like, just a huge step up from the Galleon's Grave that they did last year. And I felt really bad for them because they were tucked away in an area that was past all of the secondary seating for folks that wanted to get, like, order food and then go and then sit down, because where you ordered food, there wasn't any place to, like, sit. But there was enough sitting in the main panel area that I think most people kind of went there, because I really didn't see it fill up where all of the tables where folks could have eaten wanted to go. So I really wish that they had been more in kind of a high traffic area, just because the work that they do is so awesome, and the time spent really, really deserved a lot of folks going over to actually see them. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. The after party was great, being that it was at the actual venue. I'm glad that they didn't just burden a random pub in the area, because if you were at SoT Fest last year, it was a small pub that was just absolutely packed full. Like it was standing room only. And this time we had the whole kind of huge room that was available for the main panel section. They had karaoke there and stuff, and they had a bunch of tables and a dance floor and stuff. And I think it just worked out better. They had 2 areas to get drinks, and it was really smartly done. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I do think that it would be good to have like 2 days, but the amount of cost for that would really bump the tickets up higher. Like you'd have to pay a lot more in ticket prices to be able to justify doing 2 days. I definitely think that Tams would do well to have a backup when it comes to like the hosting duties, because with all the panels, it's hard to kind of keep things in line. But it's also hard to make sure that you're getting enough time for other folks. Having 2 stages is great. I think it would be good to split up the panels between the two actual stages. That way, if you wanted to have a Q&A section, you could go a little bit longer and, do like an hour, but, have people come up to the microphone and to be able to have like that moment where the fans get to interact with their creators. It's very important to be able to feel like they can approach them. And that was something that I think I saw this year as well, too, where folks wanted to actually go talk to different streamers, but they were either busy talking to other people, or they didn't feel comfortable being able to do that. And having like a nice meet and greet station, which was there, but I don't know how utilized it was, because again, I was kind of hanging out with most of the people that I was actually there with. So I know that a lot of folks would really probably appreciate something like that. With those Q&As, every time I've gone to a convention, there's always been a giant kind of sign that says like, hey, don't ask for personal information, don't ask for shipping addresses or to pass on gifts. Please be respectful and keep it related to the content that they make. Don't be weird. For all intents purposes, just don't be asking like, personal questions, things like that. So that I think would help kind of temper some of the concerns around offering a microphone up for fans. Obviously, when you do something like that, there's usually like a front row of chairs that are sectioned off just for Q&A questions. And once those chairs fill up, that's typically like the cutoff. Like they usually say like, okay, well, no one beyond anyone that was in a chair for here like that. Try and be respectful, making sure that you're not asking multiple questions when you're up at the microphone. Otherwise, you have to get back in line. Things like that. The vendors were fantastic. Holy cow. The prop makers, shout out to them. There was no room in my luggage. I took one backpack and a carry-on for my stuff, and my wife and I we basically did the same thing, because we don't like checking luggage. It's just it's too nerve-wracking to try and check luggage when you're going across seas to make sure that it actually gets there, especially when you have connecting flights. You never know what's going to happen with that, so we always try to avoid that and just kind of live off of the 2 bags that we can take with us on the plane. So I had no space for any kind of props or anything. I would have loved to been able to do that. But it's just not in the cards. I would have had to it's usually easier for me just to order the stuff from them directly online and have it get shipped out. But man, the props were in rare form. Liza LaRue had just built a ton of amazing props. Chloe Source was there. She had a ton of stuff. She was with her twin sister, which was crazy. I didn't realize that she had a twin sister. But that was really awesome. Fox Die, obviously one of my favorites, had a whole bunch of stuff. And Liza LaRue, she had these glass orbs that were tied, filled with little goo in them, like glowy goo, and a light that kind of emulated some of those globes that you see around the world in Sea of Thieves that were kind of like the two different colors, like the green and blue, or like the red and blue. In seeing those, I was like, man, I would have loved to have had those, because they just look so good. They're such a good set piece for like having something in the background, and it was just really beautiful, really absolutely beautiful. I managed to get one copy of my card for the Sea of Thieves Portugal trading card company. I'm so proud of that. It's such a beautiful honor to be included in that group. It was so nice to meet so many people like Thunder Crash and Night Star, as well as Dre, like Carl. So many folks that I got to meet over, like Skamelt and his girlfriend. Like, so many folks came up, said hi, either wanted to kind of chat about Sea of Thieves, or just meet me, and that's just not something that you're used to in life. I don't know if anyone actually ever gets used to that, because it's such a cool moment to get to meet people who have been with you in a sense. Like, they've been with you for years or months or days, doesn't matter, but knowing that they have been there enjoying Sea of Thieves community as well, you're already on a equal playing level as far as what we have in common. So it's so great to see that. And by the way, I did check, and I got a lot of photos of people, but I didn't get nearly as many as I was actually hoping. So if there are photos that we took together, I would love to actually get those for my own personal photo library collection and stuff, because it's just it's hard to kind of keep up with people and stuff. So if you were at SoT Fest, or Fest of Legends for that matter, and we got a photo together, please hit me up on Twitter, or in email, or in the Discord. I would love to get copies of those for my own personal little library for SoT Fest, because I know that there are probably some that I have that you always think you take more photos than you actually do. I got done with SoT Fest, and I was scrolling through my photo library, and I was sitting there thinking, I felt like I took a lot more photos. I feel like there were a lot more people that I got photos with, but I don't have hardly anything right now, and it's super weird. So it would be really weird for me to go to SoT Fest to be able to spend time and not talk about my interactions with the devs. I had such a good time. One kind of scaring Joni. I feel like I got a good proper scare in him. So I'm pretty sure he is completely done with me, which is hilarious, but it's my own fault, because I wanted to kind of poke at him a little bit, because there's that. It's a parasocial relationship. Joe doesn't know much about me, and I don't know much about him. It's just a Sea of Thieves interaction and stuff. But it was good to kind of it was very kind of him to sign, because I have my physical copy of Sea of Thieves. I got him and Mike to sign that, and after he signed it, I showed him my house in Animal Crossing, where for years, back when the game first came out back in 2020. I found out how to actually get really good photos converted into patterns on Animal Crossing. So I took the pirate photos of Joe and Mike just to kind of test it out. And I had their portraits up in my Animal Crossing house since 2020. And it's so dumb and it's so creepy. I totally understand if he doesn't ever want to talk to me again. But I genuinely appreciate just how cool he was at SoT Fest. I got to run back into George Orton, which was fantastic. It was so cool to kind of walk around with him around the actual SoT Fest grounds. We went and we talked about Ted Lasso. We talked about the event in general. We got to check out the huge map that they had built out that looks like the world map for, like all the different continents and stuff, but it's in Sea of Thieves theme, map table stuff. So we kind of hung out there for a little bit and just chatted. I had such a good time talking to them about stuff that wasn't Sea of Thieves related. I think that was one of my favorite things. Was I got to talk to some of the devs, and it was really nice to get to kind of hang out with them on a level that didn't necessarily have to be about Sea of Thieves. I wasn't bugging them about design stuff. I wasn't bugging them about, like bugs or fixes or things like that. I kind of got to talk to them about stuff that I knew that they were interested in, that I was interested in as well. And it's nice because I think at the end of the day, like they're there to have fun. They know that they're going to be popular, but they also probably just think of it as like a job that they love to do. And they have other passions, they have other loves and stuff. So getting to talk to them about that really was just, it was fun. It was nice to be able to do that, because I think at the end of the day, that's what I appreciate about them is that they're full regular human beings with other interests and desires that we don't always get to talk about. And getting a chance to do that in person, there's nothing better than that. Getting to have that like personal moment to just be like, oh, you know what? Let's talk about something not Sea of Thieves and see what you're into. Speaking of, I got to sit down and actually have a conversation with Andy Preston. It was short. He was hanging around most of the other Sea of Thieves devs, and I wanted to try and be cool and respectful about his time, but I got to talk about hourglass battles, and mostly because of me dealing with the anxiety that I deal with when it comes to actually winning and losing a battle. That heightened heartbeat that I have to constantly sit there and just like push down and temper and be like, it's okay, it's gonna be fine, it's all right, we'll deal with it. If we lose kind of deal. And I got to talk to him about locking things behind level 100, because I think this is one of the one things that I was like, I'm a little upset that the areas themselves are locked behind level 100. Like you have to get to 100 to be able to check out the new zones. And with getting to talk to him, I see where they're coming from. I still have my hopes and dreams that it would get adjusted, but at the same time, I also respect that that's the choice that they made. That's the choice that they wanted to make. And they wanted it to be something that was momentous for people. And knowing why they wanted to do it that way helps me kind of deal with the fact that, what I want is not going to satisfy me the way that they want me to be satisfied when I finally get to actually hit level 100. So I told him, I would have loved to have seen the opportunity for us to be able to go into those areas at a certain level, but before level 100, just to be able to see what's going on. Kind of the way that when you hit Pirate Legend, you can't buy all of the cosmetics that are available for the Athena's Fortune stuff, like the ghost stuff, but you can at least see it there, and like that's a goal. And I kind of wanted that for hourglass battle zones, like be able to get that. I also let them know that I would love to see more cosmetics come in between level 200 and 1000. And an interesting fact that actually came as a result of that conversation was I found out that with the skeleton curse, believe it or not, the cosmetics that they have currently available, all of those, aside from the base curse and the level 1000 curse, were completely like shoved in at the very last minute. Like, and I don't mean shoved in a bad way. I mean, like they didn't plan on having any additional cosmetics for the skeleton curse beyond what the skeleton curse was and the 1000 level reward. And someone at the team, maybe a few people, came together, really put in a lot of love and time, and managed to really kind of crank out what's available right now. And I know I've seen a lot of folks kind of upset that, there aren't any additional cosmetics available right now. There aren't any beards available or facial hair available for the skeletons. They really want that. And it's tough when looking at like the ghost curse, where you can genuinely look how you want to look and still use the curse. Whereas with the skeleton one, it is very much a set number of different ones. So to find out that at the 11th hour, basically, when they were about ready to ship and lock down the code for Hourglass, so for season 8, To know that that was all done so late in development that they originally did not plan for it and they still managed to get it in is so cool to see that they genuinely care. They genuinely want there to be stuff for folks to enjoy. They genuinely are pushing to get stuff there. And it's always that kind of tug of war battle of time versus release schedule. You know, like how much time can they dedicate to something before they have to hit a release date? And you know, I'm going to talk about it in the podcast that we heard recently from Sea of Thieves. But Mike had talked about, you know, you can't hold on to content. You just have to release it. There's a point where if you hold on, everything is going to get messed up, and you have to release content at some point. So it was really great to talk to him about that, especially as someone who struggles with hourglass battles. I have trouble with that. You know, it's something that I want to complete. It's something that I want to do, but it's going to be one of those longer term goals for me, because of how I have to deal with it, you know. So shout out to Andy Preston for being able to you know, take the time to talk with me about it. It means the world. I've always wanted to have him and Shelly, you know, kind of together on the podcast to be able to kind of pick their brain as like two huge parts of the design team for Sea of Thieves, especially in shout out because, you know, we recently found out that Chris Davies, who was at Rare for 10 years as part of that design team, you know, working with Mike, he stepped away from Sea of Thieves. He's moved away from Rare, which is kind of crazy. Just like he's been there for 10 years. And Sea of Thieves is like hitting stride after stride. And it seems I wherever he goes, I really hope that he has a great time. And it was a big step up from where he was or where he could be with Sea of Thieves, because if you think about it, there's only so many places you can go in the Sea of Thieves design team. You know, there's Mike, and then there's everyone below Mike. So he was already kind of like capped out at where he could be without taking over Mike's role or becoming a co-creative director for Sea of Thieves. And you know, I think honestly, if he got a good job somewhere else doing something that he feels passionate about, I'm very curious to see what that is, because I really respect the work that he did for Sea of Thieves. It was really, really great to hear that send off in the Sea of Thieves podcast as well too. Trying to think who else. Oh, while I was talking to Andy, the voice of Sea of Thieves, John McMurtry, snuck up behind me and grabbed me by the shoulders. And it was heaven, dude. It was like I'm surrounded by all the devs and I'm just like, oh, this is so cool, man. I love these people. These people are so awesome. The work that they're doing is great, but to see John McMurtry and actually in person and stuff after getting to work with him, not only for the intros that he did for me, but also in the interview that I've had with him, and just generally being able to like DM him and be like, hey, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. It's such a cool thing to be able to see him in person. He's too tall though, I will say. Handsome fellow, but a little tall, you know. I mean, I'm 6 foot, you know, him and Mike. It's just, you know, Andy's good. Andy's a good height. John, a little bit too tall. Same thing with McFarlane. I don't know why you got these really tall guys working over at Rare. It's a little intimidating. But I really liked getting to meet with him. It was fantastic to meet John McFarlane in person. And to find out that he has I can't remember what the name of it is. It's like the scene from X-Men First Class where, you know, Xavier's hitting on the chick, but she's got the different colored eyes. John McFarlane has different colored eyes and they're freaking beautiful. And it was really funny because I was just kind of talking to him and just kind of seeing like how he was doing and whatnot. And there was that moment where I registered that he had two different eye colors, and he noticed that I registered that was it. And I was like, and I bring it up. He's like, yeah, I saw when you noticed. And I was like, yeah, they're cool. I'm sorry. Cause it's just, you don't really get to, you don't notice that when you're actually like looking at it. Like years, I've been watching Sea of Thieves videos for years. I have never noticed this, and I don't know if it's because, and I'm watching in 4K 60. All right, like you can sit there and you can be like, oh well, you should probably turn up the resolution on the YouTube video. I'm doing that. All right, I just never noticed. But getting to see him in person, that was fantastic. Him and McMurtry, good friends. Really love seeing both of them there as well, and really just them getting to be at Sea of Thieves Fest. You know, like they've done E3s, they've done Twitch cons, they've done, you know, Gamescom, stuff like that. But having an event that is just for their game in celebration of the community and the dev team together, like I don't know how many games get that. You know, how many games get that? And not only that, but how many games get that on different continents as well, too? Like this is in their backyard, but we've also got Festa Legends, too, which is another huge community event, and for Sea of Thieves, just for Sea of Thieves. So I'm always sitting there thinking, like, you know, Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond, you know, Matt Booty, Aaron Greenberg, y'all, if you guys ever listen to this, first off, I love you, but secondly, y'all need to be paying attention to these community events. Yes, you can't sanction them. I get it. It's a liability. There's a lot of legal stuff that prevents you from being able to do that, but this is like Sea of Thieves, like pillar franchise for Xbox, man. Y'all need to be like promoting this stuff, retweeting it, you know, sharing it, talking about it, saying how cool it is, stuff like that. Let people know how awesome Sea of Thieves community is, because it is really awesome. I know we have detractors out there. There's hackers and stuff like that. I'm choosing not to focus on that because genuinely, at the heart of the community, most of the people I've ever run into are fantastic. And there will always be other people who are jealous of what other people are doing, and they will always try to take that away from them. But as long as, you know, the people that are out there making content, cultivating the community, keep to the pirate code, it will genuinely be a fantastic community for years to come. And it was really great to actually see. The first thing you see when you walk into Sea of Thieves Fest after you get your lanyard is a giant poster board that they've printed out, custom pirate code for Sea of Thieves Fest. And it's basically just saying like everyone is welcome to Sea of Thieves Fest. And it goes through all of the different rules in Sea of Thieves pirate, the code that you see. Like every time you walk out of a tavern, you walk by the pirate code. And to see that for SoT Fest and to see all of the signatures from the people that came on that board, it was really cool. It was really kind of see to see the sign off of the like the rules, like the terms of service basically for the Sea of Thieves Fest. So it was really fantastic. And I think the last thing I want to end on is, of course, my conversation with Mike Chapman. This year, I was much more restrained about going to approach him. Last year, I feel like I monopolized his time. I hung around him. I was like like a fly around food, or, you know, at a picnic. And this year, I decided to hang out, kind of observe what was going on. The dude was mauled, basically. Like, he did not make it more than 10 steps into the main area before people just descended upon him, flocked to him, queued up. They made their own queue to be able to be able to talk to him. He got a ton of gifts. He signed a ton of stuff. But at the end, he got tons of photos and stuff like that. Finally, Mark Lee came over, grabbed him, said that he would be right back, but he had to like show him the rest of the actual like Sea of Thieves Fest grounds, because he had not made it into the actual like area to be able to go do stuff. And I genuinely don't think he even got to really like walk around a whole lot. I think he got to do one trip over to like the Crooks Hollow Lego set, and that was basically it after he had been carted away, because so many people really wanted to talk to Mike, and he was generous. The whole time he was there, he was absolutely generous. He was honestly like he's one of the few people that you can talk to, and he will give you not only the full attention, but will be invested in what you're saying. And that is a rare treat to meet someone who has that amount of patience and empathy for folks, because you don't find that very often. Most other folks tend to have trouble being able to give themselves over to the conversation that well. And Mike is just a fantastic dude, and he can spin well. Like, he knows how to PR speak when it comes to Sea of Thieves. But when you get him in person, you get to actually sit down and talk with him for a little bit. It's fantastic because he wants to tell you things. He wants to give you a heads up, but he also doesn't want to ruin the surprise too. So I got to actually talk with him later in the day. It was great because he remembered one of the questions that I had asked him on Twitter and actually answered it. So that was amazing. And I'll be touching on what we talked about a little bit in the actual coverage of the SoT podcast, because it kind of plays into some of the different topics that they covered that I want to cover. But genuinely, like, the dude is a consummate professional, very, very clear about like why he's there, to meet with community members and stuff like that. And for those of you that don't know or didn't notice on social media, I got the opportunity to give Mike a gift, and a lot of people gave him gifts. It was one of the things that I had found at an anime convention like months and months earlier, right? And inside, I got one for myself too, because I absolutely just love it. But it is a little music box in a small little wooden tinder box that has kind of wood burnt picture on the inside of the lid. And it's of Davy Jones. And the music box inside plays the music from the locket in Davy Jones, or like the Davy Jones locket, right? And it's beautiful. It sounds perfect. It's a really cute little image of Davy Jones kind of like woodworked into the actual box. And I wanted to give it to him because I know, first off, he's a huge fan of Pirates of the Caribbean. But I know Davy Jones and the Sirens connected because of their lost love, like because of the sorrow that they had, the emptiness that they lived with. They were completely alone. And knowing that those two lore bits were tied together for Sea of Thieves forever through a pirate's life, and knowing that, and this was kind of cool. It was confirmation of the idea based on hearing about how hard it was for, stuff with other legal issues that they had to go through, other legal hoops that they had to go through to be able to get stuff from like different, like basically anything that ties to Pirates of the Caribbean. There's a lot of legal hoops that you have to jump through, and trying to get those within a certain time frame is extremely difficult because you're dealing with lawyers and creatives that are not used to the game industry and how that system works. It's a lot easier to work with legal matters when it comes to other games and other game studios, which is why Monkey Island is so much easier of a prospect for them compared to Pirates of the Caribbean. So knowing how hard they worked after talking to him to be able to get that song, to get the rights for that song, and Yo Ho, Yo Ho, Pirate's Life for Me, to be able to get that music into the game, and knowing how hard he worked for that, it was such an honor to be able to bring him something that was such a beautiful piece of music, but also so intrinsically tied to the future and the past of Sea of Thieves. It was amazing. I felt so good about being able to give that to him, knowing like the importance behind it and hearing him just really enjoy it. So I love that. But we had a really good time chatting for the short amount of time that we did. It was really nice to be able to have my wife there to see, like just how happy I was to actually get to meet him again, but also to get to introduce him to my wife too. That was amazing. It was great to actually meet the devs and actually get to introduce them to my wife. It was beautiful. It was like, hun, these people here have impacted my life in such positive ways that they're just another person to you. And I totally understand why it's not like it's hard to kind of convey it. Like, it's like trying to tell someone that you won the lottery without them having any concept of what the lottery is, right? Like, it's a hard thing to do. It's really rare for that kind of thing to happen, but they have no basis for comparison. So it's really difficult to kind of convey how amazing that moment is in the moment. But it was really beautiful to have that. It was really beautiful to get to talk to Mike and to get information about major issues that I had with the game, and know that those are going to be addressed. they're aware of them and they've got plans for how to address it. That some of it they haven't talked about. So I'm not going to reveal that because it's not my place. And then some of it they have, which is kind of taking me to the SoT podcast. So let me take a break. Let me get something to drink and we'll jump back into the Sea of Thieves podcast and my thoughts on what they talked about there. Cause it came out like right before Sea of Thieves Fest. All right, next up on today's docket, the Sea of Thieves podcast, episode 12 with community questions came out right before Sea of Thieves Fest. I did not get to listen to all of it as I was on vacation. So I wanted to talk about it now that I've had a chance to listen through it, gather some thoughts on there and just kind of break it down step by step. I thought there was some really interesting stuff in this episode, especially given that we finally got some answers with a couple of the big topics that I honestly was really surprised by. So it was great to actually see that. First off, amazing reference to the cello case with Timothy Dalton, Bond reference. Appreciate that, Mike. Then they got into talking about Monkey Island. And after getting to talk to Mike, it was revealed that at SoT Fest that Captain Kate Capsize will be our new castaway for the Monkey Island Tall Tales. And I'm really glad to hear that because she is part of the second Monkey Island game. Currently, I have finished up Return to Monkey Island, which is the most recent game, and I am about 75% through The Secret of Monkey Island, and I've really enjoyed going through these games. I found out that there was a hint system, plus I've been streaming these, so I've had folks drop in wanting to help out as well too, which has been great when I need it, and definitely appreciate everyone's respect for wanting to give me the opportunity to figure it out on my own. Return to Monkey Island. Wow. What an existential game that is, especially if you go through after the end through the scrapbook. It really did kind of call out the ending, because the ending itself was a bit of an interesting situation for me. I was not expecting what happened. I was very surprised and taken aback by it. But after listening to not only what was in the scrapbook, but also listening to what Marley had to say about it, as well as what Guybrush had to say about it in their, to their son. And then what kind of happened afterwards, it really did kind of make me realize that games are there to give you an experience, to give you an opportunity to have feelings and emotions and stuff. And it doesn't necessarily have to matter what the end is. Like the ending to the story or the ending to a game doesn't necessarily have to be like something that you experience to still derive enjoyment from the game. I think I've come to terms with that. Like I've played through a lot of games, but I haven't finished as many of those. And at a certain point, I think I just kind of get to a point where I'm satisfied with that game. Like I've played through enough of it. I've had a good time. I feel like I've earned what I wanted from it monetarily. Like I feel like I've gotten my money's worth out of it, if you want to put it in those terms. And at the end of the day, it's kind of like me going back to my regular staples, finding the games that I have as my live service games, because I think that those are the ones that the gameplay loop is good enough that I enjoy going out and engaging with those over and over and over again, even if there is no end to it. So to play a single player game where you are working towards a goal, you're working towards a goal, and you get to the very end and you realize that the goal was not actually the purpose, that you question why you do stuff in life, why you're driving to do something, what are your goals that you're working towards, and you want to hope that by the end of it, the means justified the end. And sometimes that's just not what happens. Sometimes what happens is you get to the end and you realize what you wanted to get out of it was not what you had sought at the beginning. Or maybe the cost of what it took to get there was so high that after a certain point you realized you were just so deeply invested in what you were doing that you lost sight of what the point of it was, or what the goal of it was. So it was really interesting to kind of get to the end and realize like, yeah, I got to the end and did I get the answer I want? No, but I still had a really good time with the game. And I know a lot of folks were originally kind of taken aback by the change in art style to the point where it actually really kind of drove away the creator from being able to want to engage with people online about that. But I have to say, I actually really love the art style and I think it serves the story well, given the type of story that it is, and what you derive from it. Then to kind of jump over to Secret of Monkey Island, I've been playing through the special edition version that has the voice acting and the different graphics and stuff like that. And I've been kind of hopping between the two, and I really enjoy it. There was a point where I realized that I had been playing for about 7.5 hours straight, and my brain had turned to mush, and I was not processing stuff critically the way you need to when it comes to these type of puzzle games. So I realized I needed to take a break. I needed to recharge so I could come back fresh to finish it up. But I made it through most of the game, and I was actually really enjoying a lot of what was going on. There were definitely parts where I was just absolutely stuck, and I'm grateful to not only the Twitch chat who were helping me out, but also to the hint system that is built into those to be able to give me just enough to be able to push forward with it. And at the end of the day, I gotta say, I have really fallen in love with these characters. You know, like there's something great about how goofy these characters are and the stuff that they're doing that I don't know. Like I really love LeChuck's crew. I think their crew is hilarious. I think it's funny that they go through so much for him that they're just like, okay, well, I guess this is what we're doing. But also just how devil may care Guybrush is with everything that he does, and how willing to just ignore the consequences of what he's doing for the sake of obtaining the goal, the end goal of it. And it's funny because like in Secret of Monkey Island, there's also this existential question of like, why do you even want to find the secret of Monkey Island? Like, what is it about the secret of Monkey Island that you think is going to improve your life? And it's just, it's such an interesting game, you know, like working towards something and hearing that a lot of that was kind of building off of the life and the story of the creators themselves as they were building the game. Just very unique in games in general. So it's just really been enjoying that. Been so excited to get into the tall tale, the first tall tale for the Legend of Monkey Island, which is coming out on the 20th. And just to see like what folks are excited about with this, like see if other folks that maybe haven't played the game really get a kick out of this, because I think that the idea of going to Melee Island because of LeChuck trapping Guybrush in a memory in Sea of Thieves is fresh. It's a fresh take on the normal dichotomy between these two characters, you know, the battle that they're in, the nemesis relationship that they have. And I'm really excited to kind of see like all of the different characters that are in there, like which characters are going to be brought in, what are they going to do. I'm looking forward to jumping into the other Monkey Island games to be able to get in touch with like Murray after playing the game and enjoying his return to Monkey Island and getting to enjoy his type of humor and stuff. Really looking forward to that. But just overall, I think Sea of Thieves, I think honestly Rare is going to nail this experience. And for fans of Monkey Island, this will be a step into a world that you've never really been able to take, as far as I know. And that in and of itself, along with the music and the themes and knowing that it's going to tie into the story of Sea of Thieves as well, I think this is going to be fantastic. I'm pumped. I'm really excited to see like what we get out of this. I'm really excited to hear what other people say about it as well too. Like, will other people resonate with this? Has anyone else really gone through the other games as well too? I think playing through the games and just getting a sense of like the relationship between everyone has really, really, really opened up the world to me. I'm really, really happy about that. And I'm glad that I'm doing it like right before we get the first tall tale, just because of a little bit of recency bias there, obviously, but also just I think it's going to be fun to kind of like be up to date with the characters and the situations and stuff, and be able to jump into that and see what happens with that. So really, really fun to hear them talk about that. They also talked about season 10, why it was delayed. And a lot of it has to do because of the issues that they ran into with captaincy, that they wanted to make sure that they didn't have happen again. And because of how big this season is going to be, which funny enough is 2 to 3 weeks out now. I think it's the first week of August. We genuinely still don't know what this season is going to be about. Now, I personally have been spoiled a bit on what this is. Folks have talked about it around me. They've been referencing it like in sales or in person. So I know like what we're getting in season 10 as far as like the big feature, which I'm glad that they're delaying it if that's the case. I don't fully understand what's coming or like how it works because I haven't actually gotten my hands on it. So I don't want to spoil it for anyone because of that, because for me, I don't have enough context to understand what it means with what we're getting. Like I get the concept of it and I'm excited because it's something I've been looking forward to for a while. But I don't know how it's all going to work. And I don't really need to know because I'm still kind of waiting for Monkey Island right now, and then we'll deal with season 10 after that. But also it's insider stuff, so I don't want to get spoiled on that so much. So it's been really cool to kind of see like the anticipation of what people are going to do with this. I'm looking forward to figuring it out myself, but until we get it, it's really hard to kind of speak about it because I genuinely don't know all the details. But I do hope that we get a video soon. I reached out to see if we were getting a video in this coming week, and I haven't heard back. So hopefully we'll hear something after the first Tall Tale. I imagine the week right before it goes live for season 10, we'll probably get a full breakdown video because they're usually pretty spot on about that. But currently just excited to see how this works, how it goes and stuff like that. Really, really enjoying it right now, just as far as like seeing the anticipation from the devs and seeing that people are excited about it. It's just such a cool moment. One of the other questions that came up regarded UI changes. Now, this is something, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, I have had my issues with the UI. I think it's cluttered. I think that there's a lot of things that can be done to help kind of consolidate information and also open up spaces so that more relevant information can be brought forward so that it's not layers deep into other menus. For example, I think that our inventory and our equipment tabs could be combined. If you were to look at the current UI that we have for barrels, we have an inventory for ourselves and we have an inventory for the barrel. We usually transfer items between the two. Take that same layout and apply that for the inventory that we have and the equipment. You can choose your equipment through the actual menu. You can choose your inventory directly from the menu. It can save you in the event of an issue going on with your controller or your keybinds, but at the end of the day, it's all accessing the same information. It's stuff that is currently on your pirate. And I think if you take the 2-panel kind of design that is currently for barrels and you apply that to your equipment and to your inventory, you could free up one of those tabs. Take that tab and then turn that into something that is specifically designed around surfacing events, adventures, and seasonal content with like the plunder pass and stuff that is going to change on a regular basis. That way you have easy access to current and most recent content with the game right there as its own tab. No longer are you having to choose between your reputation and your seasonal pass and then go into seasonal pass and then go into events and then go into special events and then all that. Like, try and break up some of that stuff. Try and build that out. So even if you were to take just the seasonal content with like the different events and you were to break it out, so you have seasonal pass as one large horizontal bar that goes on top, and then you broke out daily stuff as well as special events on two smaller squares that encompass the width of the top long horizontal panel. you could then break that stuff up and make it a little quicker to dive into. So if you wanted to check your progress on an event or say like an adventure, it would be higher as opposed to lower in the hierarchy of how many levels deep do you have to go into the UI. I also think you could take the adventures and combine them with the seasonal content, or combined it with the tall tales and the voyages. Currently you have tall tales, voyages, and captain stuff. All of that you could consolidate all into one kind of thing. Like if you had voyages and captain voyages, just mush those together into one. Have tall tales be their own thing that is next to adventures, and that way you can go in. There's a lot of different ways that I could probably mock this up if I wanted to take the time and do it in Photoshop. It's definitely feasible, but I'm glad to hear that they're aware that a lot of this stuff needs to be surfaced to new or returning players a lot easier. It's 5 years into the game. They recognize that, and they're working to do that. One of the things that they talked about was a reputation change that's going to come in, that's going to probably take a look at the way Bilge Rat adventures are designed, or like Tall Tale adventures are designed, and have those smaller blocks that are kind of shown on the screen. I think it's I can't remember if it's 9 or 12 that are currently on like the main menu, but when you go into the Bilge Rat adventures and it shows like all of the different Bilge Rat adventures, having that but just for the reputations will significantly improve the experience there, as opposed to having to scroll down a long list of ones and hoping that they load properly. Having them all surfaced right from the start will help you be able to get into those as well, because at the same time, each of those different factions is where you have to go in to get into your seasonal allegiance. Is it allegiance? No, your seasonal. Why do I always forget what this is called? I looked it up because I don't ever think about it unless I'm actively working on it. It's the emissary ledgers. Having those surfaced so I can actually look at those on a regular basis. That kind of information needs to be present with like the seasonal pass. That needs to be something that people have quick access to. Same thing with events. So I think like emissary ledgers, seasonal renown, and then what else did I say? I just said events. Those are like in events in sense of like adventures and events. Like those two things should be the things that are currently surfaced alongside this other stuff, because it is the most relevant. Bilge Rat adventures, reputations, all of that stuff is all very passive. Commendations are all very passive. They're on demand access whenever you need it. But the stuff that you want to get to, I think, is the stuff that you want to keep progress checks on when you're playing from session to session. And I still think that there needs to be a place for you to be able to. So like we have our captain's log, and the captain's log is where we have all of the different milestones for our ship that we want to pin to that specific thing. I want to have something in the UI that allows me to do that for commendations. So if there's commendations that I'm working on that are, like catch certain number of fish, I want to be able to check that very quickly without having to dive into the reputation and then the actual commendations and then to the correct page. Like that's 4 or 5 levels deep that I have to go just to check the progress. Whereas if it was something pinned to that reputation page, then all I would have to do is open up the menu, go to the reputation page, click on that reputation, and have it right there pinned, showing me how many stinking fish I need to finish up my Devil Roars achievements, things like that. So those, knowing that they're working on it is great though. I love that we're actually seeing changes in conversation around it, because genuinely, for the most part, these are all things that unless asked, they don't really give us information about. Like they don't really talk about this on regular updates or anything. So if we don't find out through these podcasts, there's not usually a good way for us to find out. And that kind of goes into the next one that they talked about, which is, where is Flameheart? We've been waiting for a while now. He's been resurrected. And according to Mike, he is planning his return, and that there will be kind of story elements in the Monkey Island, the Legend of Monkey Island, tall tales that will tie to Flameheart. Obviously, this feels like it's tied obviously to LeChuck. We had the tie-in with Davy Jones and the ferryman, two ferrymen that ferry souls from one place to the other. Flameheart and LeChuck are essentially, kind of the same entity. I think LeChuck probably has a little bit better rep than Flameheart, but maybe that's just my experience compared to what I have with Flameheart. But I'm glad to hear that they are planning something big and not just like it's another boss fight. Oh, it's another Gold Hoarder. Oh, it's another Ashen Lord. They want to do something epic with Flameheart, and knowing that they want to do that, I'm willing to give them the time, because we've already waited, 5 years. It's not going to be a big deal to wait another year or 2 years before we finally have like that epic moment with Flameheart, because after that, it's like, who's next? Hogarth, the Flameheart, the Gold Hoarder 2.0. After that, they got into talking about adventures, which I'm actually really glad that they addressed this, because there was some I feel like a lot of people felt kind of bummed about a lot of the adventures. I still had a pretty good time with them. They've been a little bit of a mix between just lore versus just adventure, and it looks like they're trying to bring them a little bit more into doing stuff as opposed to just going around to do stuff to find out what the story is, which is kind of, if we're being honest, a little more in tune with the word adventure, right? So some changes that are coming as a result of the feedback that they've had with all the adventures that they've done is that they realize that these are doing well. They're doing very well with folks. People are looking forward to them, but because of how costly they are, they want to make sure that people are getting something out of it. Also, Dean, who is in the video for this, has a fantastic Mario half sleeve tattoo. It's really cool looking. I would love to actually see that. And for some reason, all the people that get tattoos or have tattoos like prominent, they're always on the right side of the table, obviously, because like Mike and Joe are usually on the left side, but everyone that they bring in as like another panel tends to have a lot of tattoos. Just figured I'd point that out for some reason as someone who loves tattoos. So anyway, the world that we know is constantly moving forward because of the adventures. And Mike had talked about how this was a great opportunity for them to introduce Belle. But if we're being honest, Mike, I think we need to know more about who Belle is. Like, we really don't know anything about where she came from, why she's here, what the point of her helping us is. Like, what is the story with Belle? Because all we know is that there's a relationship between her and Ramsey, and that's it. So I would love if we actually got some adventures, or even just like some comics or something that kind of gave us a little more background about who Belle is and stuff like that. Just to give us a basis for folks that don't read anything outside of the game. Like, there needs to be a tall tale adventure where it's not a tall tale adventure, an adventure kind of 3-part storyline that explains Belle's history and why she's helping us. And maybe that's something that's coming as a result of the soon adventures that are going to be wrapping up with Tasha and oh my gosh, Briggsy's story, because obviously that is still kind of lingering as we're still trying to figure out like what's going to happen. The orb has been gone for a while, so hopefully Tasha's hopefully something's going on with that, but it feels like there's a story that got abandoned, and a lot of it does tie to characters that I actually really like. And if we're going to be introducing, other characters into the game, it would be fantastic to have a little more background on who they are. Because I genuinely, like, there's still mysteries that I'm trying to work out with the Pirate Lord. Like, why are there still 3 daggers in his back that we know absolutely nothing about? And I know a lot of this comes down to time, when they can tell that story. But it's great that you guys introduced Belle, but who is Belle? Like, I know who Belle was originally prior to when the game got launched and that all changed and whatnot. But if you were to ask the average Sea of Thieves player who Belle was, they would say the person that is helping us in the adventures. And that's about as much context as we could actually get from from that. And I don't blame them because that's all we've really had. They did say the way players interact with these being that they're one time through is important, that they are looking to try and make these things replayable, and that they want to bring back the gameplay focus. So it's them being real set pieces is nice for the narrative, but them being a one-time playthrough is nice, but at least make it something that folks can actually jump back into on a regular basis, you know. And that is it's been a real shame because, I mean, as Dean had pointed out in the actual podcast, he did not actually get to finish the final stage in the Shrouded Spoils Heart of Fire trailer or Tall Tale arc. Like he did not get to complete that adventure. He ended up quitting it because he was killed and lost like 3 hours worth of progress. And to not be able to ever go back to complete that, it's a shame. You know, it's something Falcor and I talked about, and it was just like, it needs to be something that we should be able to have access to. So finding a way to do that, I don't know exactly how. I think it's fine if we have like a side version of this that's like kind of like the Tall Tales where they're their own little bit, or even if they're just books that initiate the story in the world, you know, the way if they're pulled away from the actual outposts and placed upon certain areas, or even if it's just, you know, if I'm being perfectly honest, just put them as something that is down in the Pirate Legend Tavern. You know, tons of people not Pirate Legend, but you know, if you're there, then you can play through it. If not, you have to work towards hitting Pirate Legend to be able to do that. Probably not everyone's favorite idea, but I think that's definitely a place to keep them. There's a giant bookcase down there. Otherwise, we know that thanks to the Dark Deception, that there is that kind of hidden area underneath Port Merrick that some people knew about. I guess Merrick and the people of Golden Sands and Ramsey had like planned for that area to be there. It's super weird that just happened to be like a little space that they're like, this is our garage. We'll just stick everything that's happened in the Sea of Thieves there because I don't want to drag it all the way down into the Pirate Legend Tavern. Do you realize how many steps that is? Let's just put it in the garage. There's a garage at the Golden Sands. It's a storage unit. We pay for it. It's fine. We'll just have it all. Have all the Tall Tale. Have all the adventure stuff there. It's just easier. If we need it, we can get it. It's quicker access. It makes sense. You know, just park the boat under there, throw it into the rowboat, row the rowboat out. Makes sense. Moving on to hit scan versus projectiles. I put in this question and then I completely forgot about it, if I'm being 100% honest. But we had always, like, I'd been talking about this for a while. I'd wanted to know like what was going on. It had been well over a year since the team that had been ramped up to do the investigation into hit scan versus projectiles for gun combat in Sea of Thieves had commenced. We were told we were going to be getting an update. They gave us a projection of at least a year before they had any real answers to this. And the question was answered on the podcast. Mike took some time to dive into this to explain basically that they went through the process of determining whether or not they wanted to go through hit scan versus projectile based combat. Hit scan doesn't feel like Sea of Thieves. It feels less like Sea of Thieves and more like Overwatch, kind of a like an idea of you especially with Widowmaker, you shoot someone and instead of waiting for that bullet to actually connect with the person that you're firing at, the game registers where the cursor was at the time of you firing it, and then determines whether or not the person that you're shooting at is in the cursor at the time that you pull the trigger, and then works the magic of the servers to determine if it was a hit or not, and if it was, it instantly registers as opposed to having to wait for an actual projectile. In Sea of Thieves, it's all projectile based. It's designed to kind of feel like actual weapons did back in the day. It's a historical kind of period thing. The nice thing about this is they're not going with hit scan, which I prefer. I prefer the projectile based combat. I think it feels more like Sea of Thieves. I'm used to it. I like that. The other thing is that when they were playing around with it, they actually discovered a few things that they could do to kind of improve that bullet time and kind of understand like, okay, we need to kind of make sure that like if you were firing a bullet, that it does hit the intended target when they are in front of you on the screen. There's not like that latency and desync with the server based on what you see versus what happens on the other person's screen. So knowing that they're working on that and getting a chance to talk with Mike over at SoT Fest, I know that they are working on bringing some major changes that will help improve combat in the near future. I didn't get a date or a time that was going to happen, but I know that it's something that they have been building up to and they are getting close to launch with. So really glad to hear that. Really makes me happy to know that that whole project still yielded results that I think everyone will be happy with, because the alternative was to go to hit scan. And honestly, like, you know, bullets to guns, like I just don't like hit scan in a game like Sea of Thieves. The amount of damage that bullets do and the time to kill in Sea of Thieves, it really does not leave a lot of opportunity for you to be able to heal between shots. Like you have to immediately eat something every time someone hits you with a bullet, because if you don't top off the amount of time it takes between the flintlock pistol or a blunderbuss or a blunder bomb or two snipes or a snipe and a blundy, there's not enough time for you to be able to eat or do anything outside of eating to survive. So going from projectile to hit scan and allowing for that bullet travel time is really essential to how Sea of Thieves feels when it comes to combat. And I think taking that away would have been a huge mistake for the game. So it's so welcoming to hear that they're sticking with projectiles, but they've also found a lot of ways to improve that system that they're going to be rolling out in the near future. And that includes some of the issues that I have with like double guns as well too, which is nice, because right now it does not feel fair in a game where they're trying to make sure that it feels fair. Because right now sprint cancel animation is something that is significantly easier to do on mouse and keyboard than it is controller. I don't do it because I don't want to get into the habit of that, because I don't think that is the intended desire from the devs. Like, I think that is breaking something that right now they don't have a fix for. And I can't wait to see the tiers. I will get my bucket ready. I can't wait for the tiers when people see, like, if that gets fixed and it gets fixed completely and people can't do sprint cancel animations to swap guns faster, I will be so happy and ready to collect those tiers. I will turn them into the Pirate Lord, get whatever reputation I get out of Allegiance or whatever it is. More than happy to do that, because honestly, that's not a skill thing. It's a skill gap, but it's not an intended skill gap. The intended skill gap should just be, how can you play around the space to where you can dodge bullets or stay away from getting shot or ensure. And maybe this is a larger discussion. Honestly, the time to kill in Sea of Thieves is such that you really don't have a whole lot of opportunity. So removing the animation load time between swapping between guns, honestly, it does not, like, there's nothing, you can't eat a pineapple faster. There's no way to eat food faster and have it register. So having that time in between loading guns or swapping to guns is really pivotal to survivability when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, something like that. And anyone that wants to argue with me about that, you're not going to change my mind. So don't even bother with it, because I'm set in my ways about that. It's not fair. And reducing that is, unless someone can teach me how to eat pineapples faster, then I will consider it. But so far, I've never heard of anyone being able to eat food faster as a result. Anyway, that's the point too, is that people just have to chug bananas like it's some sort of hot dog eating contest. And that's because you can't guess it. You can't trust that they're going to be able to hit you with, they're not going to be able to hit you with enough damage to be able to cover a mango or a pomegranate or something. Like, you just have to eat pineapples in high-end combat, because it's the only way to guarantee that you're going to get topped off with enough damage to cover 2 eye of reach shots within a short amount of time, especially with the way quick scoping works in this. It's just, it's frustrating. I'm not going to say it's bad or good. I'm going to say it's frustrating to feel that. Which, you know, if you guys want, if you guys want to hear more grit about that, Davram's got a new episode out that I haven't gotten to listen to yet. It's literally just like hit reg versus let me read this. Yeah. Hit reg update, over on Pirate Talk Radio. So it's out there. You can definitely get that kind of information if that's what you're shooting for. The other thing that I wanted to hit up on this was we got some creator crew updates. I'm so happy that Christina is working towards updating the creator crew reputation in Sea of Thieves. It has been long neglected. Many people have gotten it without any kind of instruction or guidance on what to do once they get to the top level. It's a good way to kind of give folks something to drive for if they're looking to become a creator in Sea of Thieves. But there's very little that you can do outside of straight streaming or uploading videos to be considered a creator crew. So Christina, if you have an opportunity, I would love to see what updates come to creator crew to be able to guide creators to what can improve their content, but additionally, what creators outside of just streaming and video can do to warrant being able to get support from Sea of Thieves. I know it's a tall order, but that it's a hope, right? It's a hope and dream. Next thing they talked about, Chest of Fortune response. How does the dev team feel about it since implementation? They like it. They also let us know that there is something that is coming in later in this year that they can talk about that will be another one of these bring people together thing. And I like these because they kind of keep things fresh. They haven't talked about what will change in season 10 that will, because the idea originally was that they wanted to have it at the Fort of Fortune because people would go and they would actually fight over it, and that location for that chest may change in the future. I think I'm currently at 9, so I'm good with that if it moves, because I would love to be able to work on getting those by other means other than having to do a Fort of Fortune. I will say, honestly, doing a Fort of Fortune solo, really easy. I actually got to do one, about 3 days ago, completely uncontested, and took me maybe like a half hour. It wasn't bad at all. It was actually really, really quick. And it made me happy too, because it was like, oh, I forgot. These things are all scaled to sloops now. You can totally do like a Fort of Fortune and have it not just absolutely obliterate you to the point where you get the battle dragged out so long that tons of people come and just destroy your hopes and dreams of being able to get this one chest. So I was really happy that this works. I'm still trying to get those Fort of Fortune chests. I think I tried to get one earlier today. With Norwegian, we were thinking about going to do one, but there was a brig and a sloop in the area, and there was someone tucking at the the outpost, sanctuary outpost, that we were sailing to turn in some of the loot that we'd picked up. And it was busy. It was over at Keelhauled, which is, it's a good outpost, or a good fort. So I call it an outpost. It's a good fort. So I don't blame them for wanting to go fight over that one. There was a quick question about what will happen in the next 5 years. Like, what do they want to do? It's a good question, but it's one of those that I feel like just kind of falls into we have stuff coming and we have no shortage of ideas. I think I've heard that quite a bit in the past, and it's fairly accurate and stuff. So they are looking to build on the foundations of the Hourglass battles, as well as captaincy, which is nice, as well as the new feature that's coming with season 10, which is good, because I think that those need to have attention and constantly have small iterations and tweaks to ensure that folks are enjoying that content, and that they're not getting stale, because that's usually when a lot of stuff dies in Sea of Thieves. Looking at you, message board with all of those buried treasures and that system that is completely pointless now. It's not pointless. it's just not used, and there's no incentive really for folks to use it, because there's no guarantee of gold. It is genuinely like a thing, like you work on it to get the commendations done. Once that's done, the only opportunity you really have to do something like that is if you're trying to hide something from someone, and then you just have to keep the map on your table away from other people from finding it and stuff. So interesting to see if anything comes of that. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Could do with a refresh, or at least an idea swap up with it, get it changed up a little bit. All right. Wow, this is getting long. The next thing that came up in the podcast is one that I'm very excited to hear about, because so many people I've seen on Twitter, and it's not like a huge number, but it's enough to where I see it on a regular basis, constantly begging for anti-cheat. And I say begging because genuinely the game, for the most part, doesn't need it, but there is enough of an issue with hackers, specifically being able to like teleport onto other people's boats, do stuff, things like that, that it is a bigger issue than it has ever been. And with this podcast episode, it was nice to hear from them to talk about like the fact that they have a zero tolerance policy for cheaters and toxic behavior. Really appreciate that. Still keep working on it. It was nice to hear that the in-game reporting feature is actually being used, and that it's working out well, that those reports are actually getting followed up on, and those bans and stuff are actually, coming through as a result of people actually using that reporting feature. So often that kind of thing goes by the wayside, but it's nice to see that being used. Long gone are the days where we didn't need to worry about that. They did say that there were a lot of hacks that they've been able to stop, and have been able to ban around 4,000 accounts, which I think I talked about in the past. Definitely want to talk about how easy it is for people to create new accounts and get into Hourglass dives without any prerequisites, allowing hackers to get right back into breaking the experience for both players. I really think, and I've seen some good discussions on this as well too in our Discord, I really do think that there needs to be a time gate or a rep gate or both for new players, preventing them from being able to access Hourglass right off the bat. First off, if you're a brand new player, the chances of you being able to engage in Hourglass without any prior knowledge about how the game works, that that is very impressive. If someone can pull in and intuitively understand like how the game works and how the game is balanced, and jump into a 1v1 fight without any understanding of what Hourglass is. And there have definitely been some places where I've seen people talking about the fact that they have run into Hourglass battles where people have just accidentally gotten into an Hourglass battle, or they're just playing around with it and they don't know what it is, and they turn it on, and before you know it, they're defending, and they get stomped on by a crew going in to fight, and they have no understanding, and that is a bad experience for them. So I definitely think that, and to help with hackers in this case that are getting their account banned and are just creating a new account, signing up for a trial of Game Pass and going in and playing during that time to be able to mess with people, just because that's what makes them happy. Really, we need to find a way to add prerequisites to new accounts so that if it's 20 hours, that's something that I think, it seems like a lot of time, but if you think about and break it down, that's actually not a whole lot of time, based on how long typical Sea of Thieves sessions go. And I think that there being a rep gate also as well too, there are rep gates in the game already. Like, it's been forever since I've had to worry about reputation, but there are technically reputation gates for the emissary system. Like you have to progress a certain amount with the different trade companies before you can actually become an emissary for them. I don't see that in Hourglass, and I think that could be a good fix as well too. Or maybe a little bit of both. Like maybe you have to get a certain reputation with the different factions but it has to be after a certain amount of time. That way, it isn't something like they can just let an account run in idle for a certain amount of time. They actually have to go out and get reputation, but it isn't like they can't just use a hack to award themselves reputation. They have to have a certain amount of time as well too on the account before they can get into dives. Anything that Rare can do to slow down them being able to get right back into it, I think would be tremendous for the game. I think it would be a lot better for it. One of the things that I wanted to touch on with this is Xbox is actually starting to release into the alpha skip ahead rings for their beta tests and stuff. They're going to be releasing an Xbox voice reporting system. So the Xbox reporting system is a reactive voice reporting on Xbox that is designed to be quick and easy to use with minimal impact to gameplay. The feature is designed so players can capture quickly and jump back into their gameplay and finalize the report when their game is over. Players have full control. You choose what to capture and report. Our feature is designed so that only you, the player, can initiate the capture of the last 60 seconds of gameplay activity that occurred for content moderation purposes. While this feature works similarly to how you'd capture a game video, any captured clips using the voice moderation feature are only for content moderation purposes. They will not appear in your recent captures, and clips cannot be downloaded, modified, or shared. Only you have access to the clip until you submit it with your report. Xbox is not saving or uploading any voice clips without you, the player, choosing to start the reporting process. The clip lives on your console for 24 online hours, giving you the flexibility to either submit immediately or wait until you're ready. They will also send you a reminder to report if you haven't completed one within the 24-hour online period. If you decide not to report, the clip will be erased from your console automatically. And they've also made updates to their notification system for features so that players that submitted the report will get a notification about whether or not Xbox took action on the report submitted. This is huge for people. This is going to hopefully quell a lot of the toxic behavior that you see in games. This won't be a fix for hackers in Sea of Thieves. As far as I know, this is just for voice toxicity. The fact that this is going to be an operating system level feature is fantastic. It means that it doesn't matter what game you're playing, they'll be able to capture the in-game audio from what people are saying in game. You'll be able to report on that, and they will take action and notify you. It doesn't impact how much storage you have on your Xbox, or your online Xbox, because it stays on the Xbox. It gets deleted 24 hours after it's been clipped, whether you put in the report or not. I love this. I think this is a great way to help kind of reset the culture, reset the expectation of what it is to play online. So many people hide behind anonymity and use slurs, verbal abuse to try and degrade and take down other people because that's how they have learned. It's a learned behavior. It's learned that it's acceptable because there's no repercussions. Adding this feature in will allow people to have the tools necessary to go on the attack when it comes to dealing with this. And the fact that you don't have to do it like right away. You don't have to stop your gameplay to do it. You just have to capture it. You can deal with it later. If it's affected you and you need time to cope with that, you need to be able to process that and come to a better mental state, then they give you the 24 online hours to be able to report that. Great. I love that. And I love that they aren't hindering people from being able to use this in any game. It's fantastic. It's going to do a lot for Sea of Thieves, but I'm really, really interested to see what other areas of gameplay is this going to, or what other areas of the Xbox like games that you can play is this going to be useful, because it's not just the opposition. It's not just the people that you're fighting against. It could also be something within the party that you have too. So just be aware that it's out there. It's coming in the future. I'm looking forward to seeing how this is getting implemented. And honestly, if you're being good, if you're being nice, then you don't have anything to worry about. Like if you're not being a jerk about things, then you're fine. It's everyone else that you want to make sure that you don't have to deal with them in the future. And I appreciate that a lot. All right. So last item on today's docket. I know it's a long episode, but we have to cover the video that came out. It was the Sea of Thieves news video. Of course, we were greeted by John McMurtry to talk about some of the things that are coming that are time sensitive. I know I normally like to get this stuff out at the beginning so that you know about it. But at least maybe this way, if I put it at the end, it's easier to remember. You don't forget about it because there was so much else going on in the rest of the episode. So between July 28th and July 31st, you can pick up the Eastern Winds Ruby equipment. This is the lantern, the shovel, the speaking trumpet, and the bucket. Those are available for Twitch drops. Again, it's probably going to be 4 hours, 1 hour per item that you have to claim before you can start the next hour. As always, I recommend having either BTTV installed on your Chrome browser or your browser, or automatic Twitch extension enabled so that you can put up a stream from one of the other partnered streamers and make sure that you all are able to get those drops easily without having to think about it or worry too much about it. Additionally, if you are a Game Pass Ultimate member, you have access to Game Pass perks, and you can obtain the Obsidian Banjo, a very hard to get item. You can also get the Obsidian Compass, which was originally released through the the Chips Ahoy cookie deal in the States, and the Obsidian ship hull. Now, if you don't know, I have been given a couple of codes from community members. So I want to shout out Xbox My29 for giving me one of his codes. I don't know if he has multiple or not, but he gave me one of the codes to be able to give away. I'm doing that right now. So I hope you're listening. You can access this at redeem.microsoft.com. The code is 9WTGT2KXKM3NYQ2R3KGMFZ. Good luck to all of you that are out there listening to this or watching it. Hopefully you will get that code. Additionally, there is new Emporium content that is coming July 20th, and it covers the Monkey Island content. This is the first tall tale. We're going to be getting some stuff from the Monkey Island franchise. It is kicking off with the LeChuck Legacy Ship Collection. It looks fantastic. I'm not gonna lie. It also has a LeChuck costume set, which looks pretty good. I'm not quite sold on the beard, and the lack of red glowing eyes is a bit of a miss for me. But obviously with LeChuck, he is going to have his own model in game. They want to give you something close to that, but they don't want to really give you like the full thing. So obviously it's going to look better on bigger pirates. But I understand like it's not quite on par with what the in-game model for LeChuck looks like. I don't know if they're legal or maybe technical constraints tied to this. They also have LeChuck weapon bundle that is coming out. Doesn't look too impressive to me. I think I'm going to pass on that one. They also have the Melee Island painting bundle, which has Guybrush and Elaine. I think it was Marley. It's got Marley in it. God, I feel like I should be scrubbing through this right now, but it's got a few of the different main things from Monkey Island in that bundle. Let's see. There is a spin and shoot 'em emote that's coming as well, where you do a little pirouette and then you do the finger guns. Love it. Classic. There's also a pocket seagull emote, which is fantastic. I really like this emote. It's definitely a step up from the crab and rat emotes that we got early on. Interesting take, honestly, to see them adding like birds or animals to the emote section. I'm cool with it. I just really was surprised that this is a thing that they're working on. But it looks great, looks fantastic. I hope that we get one that includes bats in the future, because I actually really like the bats that we have in Sea of Thieves. You only ever see them really in the wilds for the most part. And yeah, that's all coming on July 20th with the first Tall Tale. So as of recording, it's going to be 4 days from now. It's coming up on this Thursday. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this. I think it'll be really fun to be able to see all of this stuff. Oh, I forgot about the piranha poodle that is coming. It's a new pet. It's a dog. It's a poodle. I feel like that's explanatory, but or you know, not explanatory. Whatever the heck that is. That is kind of understood. I can't even think of what the word I'm trying to go for right now is, but you guys know me. The piranha poodle is a good reference to Monkey Island. It's fantastic. I just played through the first one up for like the first 75% and had to figure it out. Turns out you gotta make the poodles sleep, not kill them. You're not poisoning the poodles. You have to get them to fall asleep. But I had a really good time working that out. So seeing them in game, really fun. I love that they're doing this. I imagine that Guybrush and Marley are going to be coming as costumes in the future, probably when they release the next set of Tall Tales. Obviously, we're going to be getting one hopefully later half of August, and then shooting for, this was one of the other things I talked to Mike about at Sea of Thieves Fest. They're shooting for Talk Like a Pirate Day for the third Tall Tale. As it's a roadmap. It's a thing like, you know, hey, it's not set in stone, so don't come at people if it doesn't hit that. But I think they're shooting for that. And if I take a look at the calendar, let's see, September 19th, that's a Tuesday. So realistically, I would shoot for the 21st. I think International Talk Like a Pirate Day, they'll just make it a whole week celebration. They'll probably do some drops. They'll probably do some events or something going on. Maybe like a Golden Glory weekend, either the 16th and the 17th, or maybe through like the 23rd or the 24th. But the last Tall Tale, I imagine that'll probably hit on the 21st if they can manage. And that'll kind of culminate all three of the main Tall Tales for the Monkey Island, kind of legends of the Monkey Island story that they want to tell. And then I would not be surprised if come like mid-August, we get an adventure that talks about like the rest of the Dark Deception stuff, or the final chapter of the Briggsy story. Like I that's kind of where I'm assuming stuff is going to actually show up. But overall, really excited to see this Pirate Emporium stuff. I'm probably going to hold off on some of this stuff because I just bought a whole bunch of stuff out of the Pirate Emporium. And honestly, like the poodle's good, but the pets, I don't really get the pets out too much. Do you guys get pets out a lot? I feel like I don't get a whole lot of my pets out from time to time. So I'm wondering if anyone actually does that for all intents and purposes, if like they're constantly thinking about like, oh, I need to get my pet out. But yeah, hopefully folks are having a good time with that. I'm trying to see if there were any other things that I need to share. I think that is pretty much it. I'm digging through. I think that, wait. I almost forgot. I got emails. Let's talk about emails. Oh, you thought I was going to talk about emails. Well, guess what? You're wrong, because I got myself another code for Obsidian Cosmetics. This one comes to us thanks to Trickster, part of the Discord, part of the Patreons, who have been supporting for a very long time everywhere. Trickster gave in this code. So if you want to go, again, I'm pretty sure redeem.microsoft.com. Make sure you log into your account and get ready for this code, because it is Y9TQRTH67QRY7GFX3Z. Good luck on the code there. Hopefully you guys get it. I did want to get into the actual emails, because I did get an email from someone that reached out to me, very kind of them. They wrote in and says, ahoy, Captain Jolly Rogers 1 here. Just wanted to say how much I enjoy your podcast. I don't typically enjoy solo podcasts. However, there is something different about yours. It keeps me engaged, hanging on to every word, and it keeps me excited to get home from work and play. Again, absolutely love the podcast and hope to maybe one day run into you on the Sea of Thieves. Much love and long live the Keelhauled podcast. P.S. I've included a screenshot of my ship in case you'd be interested in checking it out. And it is the Guts of Angels, the Feared, captained by Jolly Rogers 1. It has got the Davy Jones livery set. It looks fantastic. Glad to see that you guys are having a good time out there. Thank you for your email. I know you sent in a couple, but that being the most recent, I wanted to make sure I got that in on the podcast. I did get an email as well from another listener who had a really, really good suggestion for the upcoming Sea of Thieves Fest. I thought about it, and honestly, I did want to do something like what they were suggesting, as far as like having people come up with different tips and things like that, or favorite moments from the podcast. I'm still trying to figure out like what I want to do if I ever do like the live Xbox or the live what's it called? The live recordings anymore, because it's still very fresh. I mean, I've only ever done 2. I had a lot of thought about what I was hoping to do in the future with those, but not sure when I'd actually get to have that opportunity. So for the most part, I just wanted to make sure that I recorded something for folks at the time that I was actually there, just to make sure you had something to listen to. That was the main thing, is I just want to make sure you guys had something to listen to, so you weren't missing out on a week's worth of content. But thank you for writing that in. It was a very well written email and had really good ideas that I did not capitalize on just because of time and stuff. So I appreciate it. Definitely, if you guys have any questions, concerns, comments, things you want to share with me, always free to send those over to the Keelhauled email. That's just CAPTLOGUN@gmail.com. If you want to reach me on Twitter, it's CAPT_LOGUN. You can also sign up or not sign up, send anything to at Keelhauled Pod over on Twitter as well too. There's a specific account just for Keelhauled Podcast. I always read those as well too, or in the Discord too. There's a lot of folks that are in the Discord. Great way to meet up. Shout out to Norwegian, who helped get me my first Hunter of the Shrouded Ghost kill. Hit me up on Discord and was just like, hey, it's the Shrouded Ghost. And I was like, that's funny. And he's like, no, really, it's the Shrouded Ghost. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm booting up the game now. And I booted up PC, and I was like, I really hope this isn't an Xbox only server. And he's like, it is indeed an Xbox only server. I was like, oh God. So I had to boot up the Xbox, managed to get in there. He was playing on a 1X. And if any of you have been playing on a 1X, you know, it's a little rough. It's a little rough there with the frame rate and stuff. So able to help kill the Shrouded Ghost. Amazing experience. Reminds me of Shrouded Deep, actually, just how epic it is. Has music. Didn't realize that. Didn't know that the Shrouded Ghost has special music that comes with the actual popping up and whatnot. So you will most definitely know if you've got the music turned up. You will most definitely know if it is the Shrouded Ghost anytime a Meg pops up. But thank you to Norwegian for inviting me, for thinking about me when it came to that stuff. Never probably would have found the Shrouded Ghost without help from the community. So if you want to be a part of that community, definitely head over to the show notes. It's a link for the Discord. Join up, read the rules. You'll see exactly how I like to have things run in the Discord. I like to keep it family friendly because I want to make sure that if folks come in, they can rest assured that I'm not going to deal with any kind of junk in there. Like it's no BS. It's all just there to be friends, have fun, play Sea of Thieves, Diablo 4, Fall Guys, whatever you guys want to play. There's a place for it in the Discord. Happy to have anyone show up, especially if you're a fan of Sea of Thieves, and definitely a good way to share news about the game, talk about discussions that we're having as far as like hit registration, PvP, adventures, lore, any of that stuff. More than welcome to have folks jump in. There's also the Sherpa program too. So if you are fresh to the game, you need help, you want to have an understanding of what's going on, you want to be aware of the issues that could come up, Sherpas are available. They will help take you onto a boat. They will give you a bit of an idea of what's going on and make sure that you are taken care of so that you don't have to worry about trying to figure things out in open crew, because that is not the experience you want to have. Outside of that, I think that's it. So pirates, thanks for bearing with me with the little bit longer episode. There's a lot I wanted to talk to. I feel so much more comfortable sitting at my computer and having like my microphone and my monitors and stuff and having a mouse. Oh my gosh, having to edit a podcast with a trackpad. Whew. I don't wish that on anyone. So happy to be home. Happy to be looking forward to the next few weeks worth of Sea of Thieves. I'm going to be trying to get in touch with the creators that I talked to from Fest of Legends as well as Sea of Thieves. See if I can start scheduling out some of those interviews, because I definitely want to get in touch with some folks that they can talk about Sea of Thieves, what their experience is, how they got into Sea of Thieves, why are they streaming, why they think being a pirate is better than being a ninja. It's a very important question. So with that, pirates, thank you. I love you, and I look forward to sailing with you on the Sea of Thieves.